One of the saddest moments in MLB history happened when Ted Williams played the 1946 World Series with an injury only to still have his team lose the title. He would go on to end his career without winning any World Series title. But Williams is not the only baseball legend who never won a World Series title. The great TY Cobb failed too as well, and so did Bonds and Ken Griffey. There were even others who never made it to the World Series at all. Here are the top baseball players that never won a World Series. A guy can do everything. Walk on water for their team or visit the moon with their underwear and still not win a World Series. For the late Ted Williams, this was certainly the case. Ted Williams is found in almost all the lists of the top 10 greatest of all time. He was an exceptional hitter, hands down. He played 19 years for only the Boston Red Sox and was called to the All-Star games 19 times. They called him the Kid, the Splendid Splinter, the Thumper, and Teddy Ball Game. And every time he showed up in style, racking up great numbers. He had a batting average of .344, 521 home runs, and 2,654 hits. He was the RBI leader and home run leader of the American League 4 times, was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1966. One of his 2 MVP awards was in 1946, just after he completed his service for the United States Marine Corps and the U.S. Navy. Well, we told you he did everything. Williams served in the Corps between 1942 and 1946. It was immediately after his discharge he went back to sign for the Red Sox one more time in preparation for another pro baseball season. This season was one of his most historical seasons. Felt like he had come out of the war with a bursting drive. He had hit the longest home run in Fenway Park history at 502 feet. Then he won the AL MVP. Then there was his first and only ever World Series appearance in his entire career. But sadly, the injury he sustained greatly slowed his game as he could not swing a bat for 4 days. But when he could, he reported that the hand was just sore and stubbornly decided to play with the injury. His team managed to play the St. Louis Cardinals up to Game 7, but eventually struck out, and after this, he never got a chance to play in the finals as a healthy hitter. There was no redemption story for him. And this will not be the only time a star player will be having just a single shot at the World Series and failing to take advantage of the opportunity. There were some who would argue that he is the greatest baseball player of all time, and if you do take a closer look at his records, they may not be too far from the truth. The player we're talking about is Barry Bonds. Before making a final appearance in 2007 for the San Francisco Giants, Bonds had played 22 seasons in the MLB. He played for both the Giants and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Barry's records of impact is a mouthful. 72 home runs in a single season, 762 career homers, 2,558 career bases on balls, 609 on-base percentage, and 863 slugging percentage. He was respected as an all-round player, winning 12 Silver Slugger awards, and for being a dominating force in the field. He won 8 Gold Glove awards with 514 stolen bases. Other records he registered are 14 All-Stars, 7 National League MVPs, and 2,935 hits. Seriously, you can go on and complete an entire book with just the amount of records he made. Well, there's actually several books written about him by numerous authors. Book 1, Book 2, Book 3. But even with these records, there was an Achilles heel, 2 things that make the debate of greatest ever difficult to analyze properly. Firstly, he was so controversial that he failed to meet the required 75% voting for all his 10 years of eligibility into the Hall of Fame. And another personal failure of his, despite all his accolades, was failing to win a World Series title. This would have been a good consolation prize for him for not getting into the Hall of Fame, but the only time he even made it to the World Series, in 2002, he fell short too. He had gone into the 2002 season with turbo momentum. He had signed a 5-year extension deal with the Giants that was worth $90 million. Then he went on to record a career-high 370, major league record of 198 walks, and he hit his 600th home run. His postseason records were also glamorous. 16 RBIs, 8 home runs, 27 walks, 322 average, and a career career-high OPS of 1.994, but they were not enough to snatch the title from the Anaheim Angels. Bonds never got another shot at the title, but there were also some who had the chance of appearing in more than one World Series championship but couldn't snatch one of the titles for themselves despite all their best efforts. One of such players was the legendary Ty Cobb. Ty had had the chance of winning the title 3 times, but every time he came so close, the championship ran very far from him. With nearly 2,000 runs batted in, Cobb was a batting champion 12 times and has the highest career batting average of .367. With 117 home runs, he was the home run leader once in his career, but his shiniest accolades were his 4 American League RBI awards, 1 MVP, 6 stolen base leader, 4,191 hits, and the Hall of Fame nod. But that all-important title that players pray for embarrassed him on 3 occasions. The outfielder had played 22 seasons for the Detroit Tigers before retiring with the Philadelphia Athletics. He appeared in the World Series on 3 consecutive stints between 1907 and 1909. This was his earliest years in the MLB, and he never got the chance to try his luck again with the title. Not even in 1911, when he had one of, if not the best seasons of his career. He had a 40-game hitting streak and won the AL MVP, but couldn't make it to the World Series. Even when Cobb became the manager of the Detroit Tigers for 5 years, the World Series also eluded him. Tony Gwynn was another such player without a World Series title, but with more than one chance to grab it, but failing to. Considered as one of the greatest left-handed hitters of all time, Gwynn appeared in the World Series twice during his 20-year season, which he played entirely for the San Diego Padres. He was amazing, both defensively and offensively. He was the National League batting champion 8 times and a Gold Glove awardee 5 times. He won 7 Silver Slugger awards, registered 3,141 hits, 135 home runs, 1,138 runs batted in, and a batting average of .338. He was called to the All-Star games 15 times, but he still could never experience the rush that came with becoming the World Series champion. When he first made it to the championship in 1984, the Padres had lost in Game 5 to the Detroit Tigers. Gwynn and his team didn't really have a chance as they were almost swept in the series. But 14 years later, in 1998, Gwynn had the opportunity to prove himself again. He led the Padres to their second pennant and a franchise record of 98 games won. The Padres faced off against the New York Yankees, and guess what happened this time around? They were completely swept. It wasn't the fault of Gwynn, who hit .500 with 8 for 16, but it might be the fault of his teammates, who had on average of .203. And that's how Tony Gwynn was denied a World Series yet again, and he never got another chance. Well, at least Gwynn came close. Some MLB legends didn't even smell the championship. It was never a thing to fight for because they never made it to a series in the first place. Think about Ken Griffey Jr., a legendary player and just a great guy. He played for the Cincinnati Reds, the Seattle Mariners, and the Chicago White Sox, and none of these were good enough to give him the opportunity to try his luck at the championship title. Griffey had won almost every individual accolade you can imagine. From 1990 to 1999, he dominated the league in the field, snatching 10 consecutive Gold Glove awards. He had 13 All-Star calls, 1 MVP, 7 Silver Slugger awards, was the American League home run leader 4 times, and is a member of the National Baseball Hall of Fame. But Griffey is not the only one in this boat. They should probably set up a club for the Hall of Famers who missed out on the opportunity of playing in the World Series. Ernie Banks, another Hall of Famer who dedicated 19 years of his life to the Chicago Cubs as a well-decorated shortstop and first baseman, had 0 playoff appearances. All his 2,583 hits couldn't get him there, and neither did his 512 home runs, 14 All-Star appearances, or his 2 National League MVPs. Finally, and probably the saddest of them all, is Ichiro Suzuki. Suzuki had over 3,000 career hits and has the record for most hits in the MLB in a season with 262 in 2004. He was so excellent, he played in 2 different professional leagues. First played in Japan in the Nippon Professional Baseball Pacific League for the Oryx Buffaloes from 1998 to 2000. During his time here, he was an All-Star 7 times, and other awards he took 7 times were the Best of 9, Golden Glove, and Pacific League batting champion. Then he decided to move his talent to America, and he shined even the brightest. He was an MVP in his first year. He won 10 Gold Glove awards, Rookie of the Year award, 3 Silver Slugger awards, and lots more. How he managed to not make a World Series appearance still beats everybody. But that's the sad story of these great baseball players. It wasn't like they were bad or did something particularly wrong. In most cases, it was just bad luck. If you enjoyed this video about the top players who never won a World Series title, check out the video on the screen now, or the one we posted below, because we're sure you'll like that one too. See you there.